right, welcome into Get Me the Brandy, Hailey Hunter alongside Dan Potash for week 2 of the NHL season. And Dan, you are with the team in Cali right now, your home state of California. How is it over there in Cali? I think I looked and the weather was pretty similar to Pittsburgh, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, I must have brought it with me, which pains me to actually say that because it never rains in Southern California. We always talk about there being a drought out here and things being so dry. We got here Sunday. It was beautiful, great sunset, gorgeous being along the coast.
Yeah.
Monday was a little cool, but nice, no complaints.
Okay.
And then, of course, major storm rolls through on Tuesday morning
No.
and for the better part of the day. So I don't know. A couple guys teased me about it, knowing that I'm from here, and they're like, nice job, Dan. I'm like, okay, all right, that's fine, I'll take it. But I know you had a chance to talk to Tyler Kennedy and Jay Caulfield on the pregame
Yeah.
show prior to the Ducks game about how things are just more low key out here, and when teams come out here, they kind of take on the palm trees and the ocean and just that
Yeah.
kick back, relaxed attitude. And I get it. But for me, it's just like, yeah, traffic and the smog and everything. To me, it's like it's nice to visit, but I've already lived here. Like I've done that. So what? It's the beach, and so what? It's a palm tree. I don't really get into it, but yeah, I would have liked the sunshine. It would have been nice to have a little bit more of it, but
Yeah.
it's beautiful today, so I'm not complaining.
Good for you. I remember when I stayed in Newport Beach there last year with the team, I walked to the beach every
Yep.
single day because even though it's a 45-minute walk, it's so pretty and it has, that cute little town. So there's so many things to see. But yeah, that was probably my favorite trip of the year. So hopefully some more sunshine the rest of the trip. But how was the plane flight out there as well? No turbulence, easy, 5 hours or so?
Um, I wouldn't know. I got into a book and then all of a sudden
Oh.
did this.
Oh my gosh. You can sleep on a plane. I am so jealous right now because I cannot sleep anywhere. Like literally, even if it's 5
Yeah.
a.m. and I haven't slept for 2 days, I will be wide awake. So that's impressive.
Yeah, I was
You just zonk
I
out for the
was
whole plane flight and you're there.
I didn't sleep the
Man.
whole flight, but a good portion of it was smooth, no complaints. I was kind of, prepping some stuff, keeping my eye on NFL Sunday, keeping my eye
Of
on some of the
course.
scores.
Of
But
course.
I got into a book and that did it. As soon as I got to the
Oh.
book, out.
Real quick, what book are you reading? Can you share?
Uh, yeah, it's actually a book about the Major Indoor Soccer League. I was a big fan of the Major Indoor Soccer League. Of course, Pittsburgh had a
Oh,
team, the old Pittsburgh Spirit. I was a fan
yeah.
of the Los Angeles Lasers back in the day. I was actually the ball boy for the old LA Lasers that played at the Forum, where the Lakers and the Kings used to play. So it's uh,
What?
a, a book about the league in the early '80s, where it was like at, that was like the best time for that league. So
Okay.
it was kind of cool. They played indoors on basically a hockey rink, but they had artificial turf and they played soccer on it. So the Pittsburgh Spirit were a team that played at the old Civic Arena. So they
Yeah.
shared the arena with the Pittsburgh Penguins back in the late '70s, early '80s. So kind of cool just to kind of go back in time and read up on some things that brought back some old memories and told me, or
Yeah.
is telling me about some things I did not know about. So it was kind of fun. And I hate to, like, as I'm telling you that it's fun to go back in time, and then I tell you that it put me to sleep. I was tired. That's why I fell asleep. The book
Uh-huh.
did not put me
Uh-huh.
to sleep, but it is kind of
That's
returning me
actually
to my younger years.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I've asked my dad if he's ever been to a game. That's awesome at the old Civic Arena. I mean, maybe
He
when he was
probably, you
here.
know what? I bet you he remembers the Pittsburgh Spirit. Yeah, they actually did pretty well attendance wise, and they were
Wow.
successful in the early '80s before Mario came to town.
Of course, of course. Everything was much better when he came to town. Well, at least it's not a 15-day road trip this year like it was when I was on the trip with the team last year. Remember, I lost
Yeah.
my wheel, one of my wheels on the suitcase on day one of that road trip.
Yeah.
So everybody made fun of me because I was like basically carrying my suitcase around the whole trip. So 7 days, not too bad. We'll see you back here soon. But let's talk about what we've seen in this first week and a half now of the season. I feel like a big part of the success has been the Penguins' second line. You and I were talking during training camp, like, oh my gosh, look at how big that line is. All three of those guys are over 6'5". I mean, it's got to be fun for Evgeni Malkin to play with a group like that right now. I feel like he's really liked in the past playing with some guys that had some size.
Yeah, Evgeni Malkin has always had a knack for starting the season well, at least over the last few years. He's
Yeah.
gotten off to a great start. And I know it's not how you start, it's how you finish. But no one's going to complain about having a good start to their season. And the fact that he's been able to do that this comes after the offseason in which there was so much talk about whether or not this would be his last season with the Penguins or his last season in the National
Yeah.
Hockey League. And he was quick to say, you know, he's still hungry to play. And if he plays well, he wants to continue to play.
Yep.
I guess he's satisfying that hunger so far with the way he's playing on the ice. And I know he's not as fast as he used to be, but he still has talent. He still has the hands. He still has that
Hmm.
that powerful shot. So the fact that he's got a couple of new line mates and he's once again off to another good start is saying a lot. But the fact that that line is not only so tall, but so wide is just, you have to take a double take. And I know you're right. When we were in
Yeah.
training camp, it really stood out. Now, training camp was energetic already by itself because Dan Muse, new coaching staff,
Hmm.
doing things in a different way. There was a lot of high tempo, good pace. The players were very vocal about hey, this is new, this is different. They enjoyed it, but that
Yeah.
line was like here, and everybody else was here as far as size
That's right.
goes.
I think that line really, because we've seen a little bit of some changes with all three of the lines, except for that line. There's just something that Dan Muse likes about them. But when a lot of members in the media asked him, about the size of that line, like he also said, no, it's not just the size. I mean, there's specific skill sets that we really like about that line as well. And you see the stats right there. I mean, I could see why they've stuck together since really the beginning of training camp. But another guy there in Justin Brazeau, I mean, how about his start to the season? You come into a new team, you want to do well. There's a lot of new faces around you. He has 4 goals in his first 4 games. Never mind the fact that he just had his first baby on Thursday. He told me that he got maybe 2 hours of sleep before scoring the game winner, and that sometimes you do better when you're playing off of adrenaline. I remember like when I would not get sleep before a golf tournament the next morning, sometimes I would play the best because all you have to think about is just trying to hit the next shot because you didn't get much sleep. You're just focused on that adrenaline. And hey, I guess that's kind of what helped him have a big start to the season. Maybe knowing that he's going to be a dad gives him a little bit of extra motivation. I don't know, but it's been fun to watch.
Yeah, again, new player, new system has
Yeah.
found a niche, is making the most of it. But let's not forget about the connection he has with Kyle Dubas, and it goes back to
Yeah.
his time in the Toronto system,
Yep.
both at the ECHL level and then with the Marlies. And I know that eventually he didn't make it to the Leafs. He went on to play in Boston and Minnesota, but Kyle
Yeah.
obviously remembered what he brought to the ice, which is why he brought him to Pittsburgh on a 2-year deal, if I'm correct. So he remembered. I think that's always unique and kind of fun when a general manager kind of makes maybe a mental note about a player that is no
Oh,
longer
yeah.
with him, or they cross paths at some point and they become available. And he's like, I remember how this guy played overall, or in the corners, or how effective he was on the power play or the PK. And I think
Yeah.
he would fit perfectly in what we're trying to do here with this new system and this new coach and the way we want to play here with the Penguins. And I know I get it. I understand that it's early. But look, 4 goals in 4 games.
Not too bad.
It's not too bad. And again, we're still getting to know him. I haven't had a chance to talk about it. He's got an infectious smile. He's always
He does,
smiling.
doesn't he?
And you know what? With 4 goals in 4 games, why wouldn't he smile? I think it's great. But the fact that he's connected with Kyle again, and I'm sure, if you saw Kyle, be like, "Hey, nice signing, huh?" He'd probably like, "Yeah, hey, look, I know what I'm doing. Hey, okay, that's
Yeah.
why I brought him
Oh,
here."
okay.
But
Quiet
I hope
compliment.
that continues, and the fact that that line as a whole is moving in the right direction. You just want to see it continue to go.
Yeah, really, really good stuff from him. He's from a small town called New Liskeard in Ontario, a couple hours from Sudbury, where just
Okay.
9,000 people live. So it's a very small town. He told me that you basically play hockey or you don't do anything there. Like that's all there is. You play pond hockey or you don't play sports at all. So yeah, I'm looking forward to learning more about him, but really cool that a small town boy like him, same area where Corey Perry came from, is finding some success. But real quick, back to Gino. I haven't really had a chance to ask you this, Dan, but do you think this could be his last year? Me personally, I think that if he has a really good year, there's no way G is going to hang up the skates. He's going to be like, all right, I'm ready for another year. But what do you think?
You know, I think he still wants to play. He's
Yeah,
still young at heart. You could see him on
yeah,
the ice, the way he still has fun, the way he still has fun in the room. I've watched him grow up over his 2 decades with the Penguins,
yeah.
and I think he still loves and enjoys the game. I know he's had some injuries with the knee and so forth, and he maybe hasn't been able to produce the way he would like to as far as goals and assists and total numbers and what have you. And that's because he's so used to playing at a high level or producing at such a high level. He expects
Yeah,
more of himself. But as long as he can do something and help a team, I would think he would still want to. I
I
don't
agree.
know. I think we'll probably have to wait and see what he does at the end of, or what he's done at the end of the year, and
Yeah,
kind
I
of go
agree.
from there. But he loves, much like we've heard before from other players like Letang and Crosby loves Pittsburgh. He wants to be a Penguin. So
Yeah.
I I would have to wait and see what this season looks like. But my heart tells me that he would like to continue, but I think he needs to kind of look himself in the mirror after the season and see
Sure.
what kind of season he's had.
It's just weird to think about Sid and Letang still playing here and Evgeni Malkin hanging up the skates, isn't it? I mean, he wants to be out there with
Yeah.
his brothers at this point. So, yeah, interesting to hear that input.
Inside Penguins Hockey is back
Let's go eat sushi.
for an all-new season.
And now he's your best friend.
Yeah. Getting a line in the water is always a joy for me.
Inside Penguins Hockey. New episodes every month on Sportsnet Pittsburgh. Presented by UPMC Health Plan.
Well, hey, we are only a week and a half into the season. So, you know, Dan Muse is trying out a lot of different things right now. I'm assuming that we might, depending how the team does, even see some players get called up. I mean, if the Penguins continue to struggle, I could see maybe some guys like Tristan Broz and Avery Hayes getting an opportunity at some point this season. And I know General Manager Kyle Dubas just talked with Josh about that in their recent episode of Penguins Game Plan. So let's just take a listen here and hear what Dubas had to say about those young prospects.
Two guys that got some opportunities
Yeah.
in your top six. Tristan Broz, I know, granted, lineups change night to
Sure.
night. The preseason was centering the top line on a couple of occasions.
Yeah.
What'd you make of their preseason? And was it a similar kind of thought of these are top line opportunities in Wilkes as opposed to maybe a little bit different here?
With Tristan going into camp, starting in Buffalo, we wanted to put him in a good position to we felt he had earned that last year. We used him as the placeholder in the first two exhibition games with the wingers that had been practicing with Sid and Gino to see how he would do going into Montreal, into Columbus, playing against their top lines on the road. Felt he played well, then felt he had a bit of a drop off in the middle of camp, and then came on strong at the end. And we feel he's knocking right at the door. Avery was excellent in Buffalo at the prospect showcase. He had a strong start early, and then right around the middle of the camp here started, both in practice and the games, just thought his effectiveness dropped, and then at the end he pushed his way back again and finished very strong. He's just someone that we feel embodies everything that we want to be about on the developmental side. They're there, they're banging on the door. Can they go down, play huge minutes, and continue to exert themselves? And much in the way that Ville did throughout the year last year, particularly at the end, and Rutger the same way, and earn their way up. So.
Yeah, good stuff there. Dan, you and I were at practice, one of the last practices of the year before the opening season would happen. And remember Tristan Broz, he just had a really sad look on his face. I think he really thought he was going to make the team this year. But unfortunately, when we saw a smaller group out for that early morning practice, we kind of knew, right, that practice was going to be the B team, if you will, that wasn't making the roster. But I felt like we saw a lot of good things from him, right? He was used in all areas of the game, PK, power play, kind of jumbled him around different lines as well. And then you got a guy in Avery Hayes who came here on an AHL contract, earned himself an NHL contract in March. So a couple of young guys, maybe we'll see them at some point this season.
Well, you heard Kyle talk about both of them, and it's obvious he doesn't like them very much at all. I mean, let's be
Yeah.
honest.
Doesn't think they're talented at all. Yeah.
Right. So, look, Kyle has made his plan very clear. We want to get some young guys in here. 13 players drafted just a few months ago this summer in the draft, and he's giving the kids a good long look. And I think, sure, of course, Tristan's going to be disappointed in the fact that he didn't make the team, but he goes to Wilkes where he played last year and had a really good season for the baby Penguins.
Yeah.
He's back now getting some more seasoning with the opportunity to continue to build on his play and what he's doing offensively for that team. And, last season, when I was with the Penguins in Denver, I had a chance to go pay a visit to his old college coach.
That's
Or
right.
pay a visit to his old college and speak to his old college coach at Denver University, where he is. And he was also, Coach Carl was very happy to talk about the fact that he enjoyed watching how Tristan was able to grow up at the college level and how he matured as a player and helped them in the playoffs and helped them succeed and turn that corner. And he was not surprised by the success that he was having at that time with Wilkes-Barre Scranton. So I think the learning curve is continuing for him. And let's be honest, I think the future is very bright for him. It's just a matter of timing and when. And the same thing for Avery Hayes. He had a great camp. Here's a guy that opened up a lot of eyes with what he was able to do, not only during practice, but in games, in preseason games for the Penguins. So same thing. They're getting some extra seasoning. They're getting more playing time. And really that's what it's all about, because it does them no good if they're going to be here with the big club and they just sit and don't get a chance to play. Now, I'm sure they continue to learn and practice from guys like Crosby and Malkin and Letang and Rust and Raquel, who wouldn't learn. And I, we've talked about this before. Fans that come out to watch can learn so much at practice, because what they do at practice is what that in turn is executed on game night. Yeah. But still, nothing can, substitute a game. So if they're just going to sit here and not play, it does them no good. So they're at Wilkes and they're continuing to fine tune their game. I am excited about what the future has in store for not only them, but for the rest of the young players that the Penguins continued to try to have acquired this past summer in the draft. And let's face it, there's a long list of picks that Dubas has got in his pocket moving forward.
Yeah, well said. I mean, you mentioned the preseason. I remember same thing with Ville Koivunen going down right now to get some reps, but it was him, Avery Hayes, as well as Ben Kindle. Remember how well they were playing against Detroit's top line, Buffalo's top line with Tage Thompson. I mean, they controlled the majority of shot attempts, and their line was the one that was mostly going up against those top lines. So I think they've proven that they can hang at this level. But hey, you can't give everybody a chance on that opening night roster. Ben Kindle, we'll see if he stays past 9 games, but if he does go back to his junior team after nine games, I wouldn't be surprised if Broz or Hayes got called up. But, what do you think about Ben Kindle so far with that? I mean, I'm wondering, is there anything left for him to actually learn at the junior level of hockey with just how well he's fit in to this NHL level? What do you think they're going to do?
Great question. I don't know what they're going to do, but it's probably a good problem to have, because he's already forcing them to make this decision, right? The fact that he's here and that they could not send him back. And the same thing with Harrison Brunick, the fact that they've earned the opportunity to play at this level. And Dan Muse said that, like, they've earned this. So I don't want to say they forced their hand, but hey, they have said, hey, guys, we can play here and we can be effective. Both have scored goals. Both are hanging with the big club, playing with veterans and making some noise. Even if they were to go back, again, same thing. They're 18, 19 years old. They obviously will not be there next season. The fact that they're here now just shows you what they can do at this level.
It's really interesting.
It's a great. I don't know what the team's going to do. Back in 2006, the Penguins drafted Jordan Stahl, who was 18 years old. And I think the thought was back then that, he'll only be here for a handful of games. But he went out and scored 20 plus goals, turned a lot of heads, and then it was excellent on the penalty kill. And it was a mainstay and a focal point on that team all season long. So
how do you not keep him?
I don't know. It's a difficult decision.
Very
but
interesting.
I think and I think it's challenging the coaching staff to make a difficult decision. But that's a good thing, because it just shows that they've got some talent knocking on the door, ready to play. So we'll see where it goes. But I don't know. Even the fact that they didn't play Harrison last night in Anaheim because it's part of the plan. We're going to develop these younger players our way. We've been down this road before with other players. Let's give him a rest. He's done playing well. He could probably play every minute of every game because he's 19 years old, but we're going to give him a rest physically, maybe a rest mentally. It's part of the plan to develop them in what they feel is the right way. Okay. All right. So if he goes back, that's probably part of that same plan.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Interesting to see who's going to be sent down and who might get called up. Did you ever hear, by the way, Avery Hayes, of how he found out he was earning the NHL contract in March? He was getting a massage at the time, and his agent was trying to get a hold of him to tell him the news. And he was ignoring the calls because he was enjoying a massage. So his agent, like later in the day, he finally calls him back and he's like, dude, I've been trying to get a hold of you. He was like, sorry, like I was getting a massage. Like it's the end of the season. I'm trying to, keep my body right. But I thought that was pretty funny because, young guys, they're always on their phone. Of course, the one time someone tries to get a hold of him, let's get a massage.
Okay. Like you said, sometimes you got to ignore the phone calls,
after that 5-hour flight.
We're all on our phones all the time, right?
That's true. He needed a break.
Here, we don't just watch the Penguins. We live every tipped puck.
Unbelievable.
Every battle.
Give me more of this.
Every new prospect.
This is a glimpse of the future.
Everything you love about the Pens, we do too.
I'm down here between the benches.
You know what that means, Pens fans?
Cheers for that.
The fuck did they score?
We manifested it.
Stream the Penguins all season long on SNP 360.
Well, Dan, I know you caught up with some former Penguins, during your time a couple of days ago, right? So tell us about that. Who were those guys that you caught up with? And I believe you hit the road for San Diego, right?
Yeah. So, something that's always been something I like to do if the opportunity presents itself is when we go to a certain city, if there's an opportunity to connect with either one of the current Penguins that has a connection to that city, whether it's their hometown, or a former coach or teammate of one of the current Penguins or a former Penguin. So the opportunity to catch up with two former Penguins that now live in the city presented itself on Monday, which was a practice day, but we decided to go down early and try to make our way back in time for practice, which we were able to catch the end of practice for the record, which was nice.
That's impressive.
Just barely. No speeding by me, but we got there in time. Randy Carlyle used to be the head coach for the Anaheim Ducks here for many years, led them to their only Stanley Cup championship, had retired just a few years ago, still spends his summers in his hometown back in Canada, but spends the winters here in San Diego or down in San Diego. Had a chance to catch up with him because to this day, he is still the only Penguin defenseman to ever win the Norris Trophy. And when you think about it, in the time since he won it back in 1981, some big names have come through here. Paul Coffey, who has won the Norris Trophy, but he won it in Edmonton. Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson, who has won the Norris Trophy, but not with the Penguins. You've had some pretty good defensemen that have come through here. He's still the only one. So we had a chance to talk about how he was able to do that, what enabled him in the Penguin system, which was coached by Eddie Johnston at that time, enabled him to win that award. And shortly after that, he was given the Penguin C, or he earned the right to be the captain of the Penguins. Did he take? What was it like to play for the Penguins back in the late 70s when he came over from hockey crazy Toronto? He played 2 seasons with the Maple Leafs where hockey's it, right? And then he comes to the Penguins where the Steelers were just about to win their 4th Super Bowl, and the Pirates were the We Are Family World Series team. So
the Pirates
where did the
too.
Penguins fit in? Yeah, what was it like to play hockey in a city that was still going crazy for baseball and football at that time?
Yeah.
And he had some unique things to say about that. I thought it was cool to kind of walk down memory lane and how the game was different then, and how he was able, how things played out differently defensively for not only the league, where things were played differently defensively in the league, but for the Penguins as well. And then since he played the position and he has an eye for talent, having been a longtime head coach in the National Hockey League. I asked him about Harrison Brunick and what he thinks about this young kid and what he's been able to do in a short amount of time by having a great training camp last season, a great training camp just last month in September, and then earn a spot with the Penguins. So we had a little snippet of his interview before the pregame show against the Ducks, but a longer portion of that will be part of a feature that we put together for Inside Penguins Hockey. The other individual, Robert Lang, great winger with the Penguins. When I first came to Pittsburgh in 2000, he was with the Penguins for a couple seasons before that, originally drafted by the Los Angeles Kings and debuted with the Kings here in LA back in the late 90s, but originally got to play with Jaromir Jagr in those the first few seasons and had some, it was the real first time in his career that he had success on the ice. Like his game was really elevated. And I asked him to detail why, what was behind it? How much did Jagr play a role? And of course, Jagr had a lot to do with making him a better player, much like players who skate alongside Sidney Crosby elevate their games because Sidney just makes you a better player on the ice. And he talked a lot about that. But in 2000, Mario Lemieux comes back. Things change. The lines are kind of, things are moved around. And all of a sudden, well before the HBK line, which became so popular in Pittsburgh during their cup runs in 16 and 17, there was the KLS line. Alex Kovalev, Robert Lang, and they were so much fun to watch. They were just a machine. They clicked every time they took the ice. They were so productive and such a force. And that was a compliment to what Mario and Jagr were doing on a line of their own. Right. So they certainly were exciting and fun, and part of the reason why the Penguins made a run through the playoffs to the Eastern Conference Finals before falling to the Devils back in 2001. So again, what was that line like? Why did it click? What worked well? What did he remember about his time with the Penguins? And then after that season, that team was broken apart. Players moved on. He moved on. Yeah. Was he disappointed that he couldn't continue to stay with that line? How much fun was it to watch Mario return? It was kind of a secret. It was a secret. Nobody knew about it. And then can he still play? And then he shows up and he can still play. And what was it like to play with Mario Lemieux? So, and then of course I asked him about, living in Southern California. There's still hockey here, right? The Ducks are just up the road. The Kings are a little bit further up the road. But how much has he enjoyed watching the offense continue or the success continue with the Penguins? And he said, it's crazy to think that throughout the years, it's been Mario, Jagr, Crosby, Malkin. How much have Penguins been able to enjoy this unbelievable amount of offensive talent year after year, decade after decade, and that we're spoiled. And he could not be happier for the fact that Penguins fans have been spoiled because of that. So we talked at length about that. And the best part was, usually I ask these players or, Randy Carlo, former coach, to meet us at the rink or at the hotel to do these interviews. But you're in San Diego, right? I mean, I'm like, what do I want to be indoors? So we found a small park in just north of San Diego. And the backdrop is, again, palm trees, the ocean.
It looked beautiful. I was so jealous.
It was absolutely beautiful and so much fun to be able to talk to him. And it's just funny. You're talking about hockey, and then as I'm looking over their shoulder, here's a seagull, here's a palm tree, and there's a surfer. It's great. So it was all part of it. It was an excellent trip, easy drive down, no traffic, and again, made it back in time for the end of practice.
Dan, I'm curious, are they still involved in hockey? I mean, what are they up to right now other than enjoying the palm trees and the seagulls?
Not really. For the most part, Robert Lang is a 24-hour golfer, as he should be. Okay. There's a few courses down in San Diego that he takes full advantage of. I think he's just enjoying life. He has two boys that are I believe have both graduated or still in college. So he's enjoying life in that fashion. Randy, and they both still watch hockey. Randy was talking about how he still watches games a lot, but a lot of the East Coast games, 4:00 West Coast time. So he's got share the remote, can't always be on it all night long, but he still keeps tabs on what's going on and so forth. He did some consulting for a little while, but for the most part, in fact, I when we wrapped up the interview, he said, "I got to go. I've got some gardening to do." So, hey, whatever works to stay busy and enjoy life, that's fine.
The retired life.
That's cool. But again, it's nice to see they were more than happy to talk hockey. It was great to kind of allow them to go back in time and relive some of those moments, and it was fun. So I look forward to putting pen to paper and telling their stories and allowing some of our viewers and fans, and maybe the ones that remember their time with the Penguins, and then fans who don't know much about Penguins history, to kind of get a chance to go, oh, huh, I thought it was just the HBK line was that KLS line. I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know that the only Norris Trophy winner was Randy Carlyle. Oh, okay. So it's and it's educational for me as well. Yeah. Educational for me as well. I mean, I may have a long list of questions, but they have some answers I wasn't ready for either. So it was a good trip.
Dan, that's awesome. And I'm glad that they're, getting away from hockey a little bit and doing some gardening, getting involved with some other things, because they've certainly put their time in throughout their whole career and lives with hockey. So, hey, that's great. I love that. Well, you guys are on the first really long road trip of the season right now. So I'm curious your thoughts on just, you don't usually see a long trip like this right out of the gate. But how beneficial might it be for, the players? I'm sure you've seen them around going to dinner together just to kind of have that time to bond. I mean, 11 of the 25-man roster of players for the Penguins, they weren't even here last year. They're all new.
Yeah. So, you notice it on the plane a little bit. The guys are in their groups or their cliques. Some are playing cards, some are, maybe video games, some are just in a book, whatever it may be.
Doesn't play cards.
Guys are still getting to know. I'm sorry?
He doesn't play cards, does he?
No. just a little
Very
bit.
vocal at the card table. Okay, continue.
Very vocal, extremely vocal. So they're kind of, getting to know each other. We saw that during training camp, but training camp is, they've already got a lot going on, trying to know the system, get to know the coaches, meetings, watching video, on the ice all the time. So this is a real opportunity to just be with teammates. And it was already noticeable, again, spending a couple of days in Orange County. And now we have 3 days here in Los Angeles, a complete day off today before playing the Kings. So it's a chance for them to hang out. And you already saw the groups of guys going to dinner, hanging out in the lobby, whatever it may be. So it doesn't matter. You saw some of the young guys with older guys. When I say older guys, players that have already had a few years in the league that are in their mid-20s compared to, like, let's say someone like Ben Kindle, who's 18. It doesn't matter. They are teammates, and this is an opportunity to get to know them a little bit better. And there really is something to that. And it's not just the players, it's also the coaching staff. As much as Kyle Dubas and Dan Muse have picked these assistants out, they have a connection. And some of them have worked together before. Still, this is a different environment, right? This is a different team. This is a different situation. So they are, I guess, in a sense, bonding as well. And the coaching staff, look, I was up early because still on East Coast time, and I was down in the lobby having coffee, and I would already see some of the coaches walking out with their backpacks, headed out to the rink, to watch video, to have meetings, whatever it is. This is 7:00 in the morning. So, this, again, it's work, but it's also a chance to talk and get to know these guys. So, you're right. To have a trip that's 7 days long this early, is a little unusual, but I think it's good for this team. I think it's important for this team to get to know each other a little bit better. At the same time, you will be on the trip to Stockholm next month, which is about an 8-day trip. That's a longer plane ride. That's another side of the world where not a lot of the guys, I don't know. I would have to ask how many have been to Stockholm. So I think that's a better opportunity for them to get to know each other in maybe a setting that not many of them know much about.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll have a lot of team bonding activities planned in Sweden. I'm looking forward to tagging along with some of those. And I wonder, you mentioned like the dinners and stuff. What is it like with Ben Kindle and Harrison Brunick, 18 and 19 years old, going to dinner with some of these guys? They're all ordering probably a glass of wine, and I'm sure there's plenty of jokes headed their way as they're drinking their lemon water. But hey, good opportunity for the young guys to mix with a veteran talent team, right? You've got a good mix on this team this year from all ages across the board. So yeah, I agree. A really good opportunity. And Dan, for you too, I mean, we're getting to know these players, right? We're getting to know this new coaching staff. It really does help when you're on the road with the team, doesn't it? Because you really start to get to know them. You see them. I remember when I first took this job, you mentioned you see them, in the elevator, you see them going for dinner, leaving the hotel, and you kind of get to know these guys on more of a personal level away from the ice too, don't you?
You do, and that's part of, I guess, that's part of our job, right? It's
Yeah.
an opportunity to get to know them as people, and as you do, you find out about who they are, what they are, where they're from, and
Yeah.
if we come up with a unique storyline that we can then in turn relay to the viewer, you do that, and then the viewer or the fans kind of go, "Oh, I didn't know that about them." Beyond the fact that they can score goals and set up goals
Yeah.
or make big saves. So, yeah, and sometimes it's a challenge. Like I said, this trip has been, they didn't have a morning skate yesterday, so the opportunity to go to the rink and sit in the locker stall next to someone after they're done with practice did not present itself yesterday. No
Yeah.
practice today, so I feel like I'm playing a little bit of catch up and trying to get to know these guys a little bit better. It'll be harder to do so tomorrow because it's a game day skate. So I don't know if I can have um, a more recreational conversation with one of them since it's a game day and they're more focused on the game. But I may try to anyway. And if I don't get what I need, okay, won't be the first time. But you got to try. And again,
Yeah.
that's part of the fun, right? You get a chance to get to know them. They get a chance to know you. And it's kind
Exactly.
of cool because winning obviously helps. But as this team continues to try to find itself, whether it was a tough loss against the Rangers the other night back at home, or
Yeah.
another tough loss in a different way last night against Anaheim, this team will continue to get closer. And I think that's part of it. So it's winning and losing that will work in together in that goal.
Yeah, that's right. It was tough to see that loss last night. I'm sure Parker Witherspoon is feeling
Ugh.
kind of bad taking that late penalty. But on that note, I mean, a
Yeah.
couple more games left to hopefully get a couple of wins to close out the road trip. Somebody who I've been really impressed by is defenseman Ryan Shea. We've been seeing him eat up some big minutes lately. And when you look back to his last couple of years, he was averaging only about 14 minutes of ice time. This year, he's on the top pair with Chris Letang. And I mean, he's nearly 22 minutes of ice time now. I saw a stat in our stat chat last night that actually said that he is the most improved defenseman as far as ice time from last year to this year. So really stepping into a bigger role. Just how do you feel he's handled it so far? Because you could tell he has a little more confidence about him. I feel like he's jumping up in the plays more offensively. He looks good out there next to Tanger.
He does. And he got that year on his contract extended last season. That was a huge
Okay,
boost of
that doesn't
confidence
hurt.
for him to know that
Yeah.
that he had done a good job. The
Right.
team liked what they saw and they rewarded him for that, but that did not allow him to take his foot off the gas. He came in focused during training camp and he's being rewarded for that by
Yeah.
seeing a lot of playing time. You're right. When you play with Chris Letang, your minutes are only going to go up. So he's right around 21 and a half minutes so far through 4 games this season. And how could you not
Right.
learn from someone like Chris Letang? If anything at all, after playing with him through 4 games and all those minutes, I would think that his physical fitness or level of it will be only better because of it.
Yeah.
He'll burn more calories, wink, wink. That's for sure. But, Chris has been around the game for 20 seasons. He's 1/3 of the big 3 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So
Yeah.
I think he can only learn from someone like that. But as we saw against the Ducks, just for example, the most recent game, he was firing pucks to net, helping set up goals.
Oh yeah.
Again, here's a guy who's trying to say, hey, I deserve to have a position as one of these 6 defensemen on game night. And
Yeah.
again, another great individual off the ice, but someone who's
Right.
worked really hard. he was originally in the Stars organization and did not get a chance, or things just didn't work there. So he comes to Pittsburgh, works hard, and things are now clicking. So good for him.
Yeah.
It's nice to see him get rewarded, working really hard. And while we're talking about defensemen, and I don't want to get too far away, but again, someone who has turned some heads through 4 games. How about the play of Connor Clifton last night in his first game? What did he dish out?
Like 7 hits?
15 hits? I'm over exaggerating, but he was throwing his body all over the place last night.
I know. He's a fun player to watch. And I feel like somebody the Penguins need, right? Because they don't, Boko Imama, obviously not with the team right now. So who's going to be that physical guy to step up? And he's not even the biggest guy in the world, but he just doesn't care, does he? He's ready to be that physical presence. He told us that he's made a career out of that. Clearly, the last 3 years for him, he's led his team, whether it be the Sabres or the Bruins, in hits. So, we always joke about Noel Acciari, hit of the game, Noel Acciari, hit of the game. I don't know, Dan. He might have some competition this year with Mr. Connor Clifton. And, when you play a heavy team like the Kings coming up here, I'm curious if Clifton will once again be in the lineup, because you kind of need a guy like him when you're playing some of these West Coast teams that like to play that bigger, heavier hockey. But hey, it is nice to see, we talked about Ryan Shea, the way he's playing right now. And I will say it's interesting. He usually stops skating and starts skating in July. But he told me that this year, he actually only took a couple weeks off and started skating right away again in May with Sydney, because apparently that's what Sydney's been doing to feel like he's not taking a long break off to where he has to recover and get his legs back again. So he said he was golfing with Sydney, and Sydney asked him to come to the rink and, skate with him only a couple weeks after the regular season. He's like, I felt good, so I guess I'm just going to keep on skating. So it's interesting. Some of these guys actually feel better not taking that much time off, and I guess it's worked out well for Shazo, but can you imagine skating hard for basically 12 months of the year? That's pretty impressive, not taking that much time off.
Yeah, Hailey, whatever works, right? Like everybody has their different conditioning programs, whether it's in season or off season. Some guys you either see or hear what their programs are, and you're just like, oh my God, I feel so fat just listening to what you say that you do.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm exhausted just hearing you talk about it.
Exactly. But, you then turn around and watch what they do, and it just, okay, that's what works for you. So whatever it is that allows them to find that level that gives them the opportunity to succeed on the ice. Okay. Last night, the hallway outside the Penguins room is very small. It's very thin, and
it is,
there's not a lot of room to work where we stand to do our walk-off interviews. And right next to it, there's like stationary bike, stationary bike, stationary bike. So as I'm sitting there, I've got somebody like right here,
I remember that
pedaling really hard and going through the routine. And I'm like, okay, like really, and if it wasn't one player, as soon as he got off, another player got on, and that was before the game, that was during the intermission, that was after the game. There's constantly, and they're drinking a protein drink. There's a plan in place for them. That's during the season. You'd think you'd want a break in the off season to kind of get away and just say, hey, I'm going to give my body a little time to take it easy. Whatever works, right? Whatever works to make them succeed.
Looks like he doesn't need a break, though, because like you said, nearly 22 minutes of ice time hanging up there with Tanger. Yeah. And those bikes, these guys are crazy, man. I tell you, I didn't realize that NHL players literally, work out in the morning, play a whole game, and then after that, they're all on the bike after the game. Sidney Crosby is always on the bike after the game, and he's not just doing a casual ride. He's killing it on that bike, as if he didn't just skate 25 minutes in an NHL game. It's so impressive. And that's the kind of, talent that leads them to a high level. And hopefully we'll see the Penguins compete once again for a Stanley Cup. And that brings us to a little trivia that we have as we celebrate some Cup combos, as it will be the 10-year anniversary, right, of their Stanley Cup win. So Marc-Andre Fleury, of course, your buddy, Flower, you just got to see him for a little bit, which was so nice, his homecoming in Pittsburgh. He played 9 consecutive games to start the 2015-16 season, all right? Okay, but who started in goal in the 10th game of that year? I don't know the answer. You don't know the answer. What do you think? I feel like Matt Murray. I don't think so. I feel like we're being tricked here. I'm going to go with Jeff Zatkoff. What do you think?
So I would think that most people would say Matt Murray just because of the way that season ended, where Matt
Right.
saw a lot of playing time and helped the Penguins win that Stanley Cup championship, the first half of back to back. But I actually know the answer because Jeff was such a character on that team. He stood
Well,
out
right.
even though he was the backup, and then the other backup as Murray became more of a dominant factor as that season moved forward. In fact, he started because of injuries to Fleury and Murray at the start of the playoffs, the first round against the New York Rangers.
Yeah.
Zatkoff was had to start games 1 and 2 against the Rangers. He won game 1. And later on, fast forward, the Penguins win the Stanley Cup, and he would, I think it was as the playoffs moving forward and they would have success, he called himself Mr. Game 1 because he won the very first game that led towards their march to a Stanley Cup championship. Mr. Game 1. And it was, I think he came up with it himself, but it became like the running joke in the room and everything. He was so much fun to be around, but Mr. Game 1. Yeah. So that was the opportunity for him to shine in game 10 of the regular season, but really it was Mr. Game 1 in the postseason that he's be remembered for, at least in my mind.
I love that. I feel like I need to use that phrase moving forward. Like our first broadcast of the year, if we do a good job, I'm going to call you Mr. First Broadcast of the Year, Dan. Does that work for you?
Oh. Okay.
Among many other nicknames, Dan. Among many others.
Okay, as long as they're nice.
But he was a nice guy, though. You loved working with him during his time with the Pens.
Yeah, just a great guy. I think he's in finance now. I'm not sure where he's located, but just a fun guy. He just had a great sense of humor. You just really, here was a guy that was never the main goaltender, but just loved playing the game. He was so, excited to be part of the team, and anything he could, when he did get the opportunity to play, it meant so much to him, and even more so when he won. But just he loved having fun. He was again that 16 and 17 teams, or those two teams, had so many characters, and there were so many storylines and so much fun, much like the 09 team. And I guess you could say that about any Stanley Cup championship team. When they win, and the players break it down, and they talk about they had this, they had that. There were so many chapters to why they were able to win, and it has. Yes, it has a lot to do with their talent on the ice, but it's also who they were away or off the ice, and the personalities and what they did. The jokes they played on each other, or the things that they did on the plane, or whatever it may be. And Jeff was just one of those. He was fun. And I remember when he got his ring, he was so happy. And you couldn't be happier for a guy like that, because again, he was Mr. Game 1. And he will let you know that too, in a fun way. And again, just so much, you felt you could just easily be a fan of his, because he was a guy that really, truly enjoyed being part of the team.
I love that. And I'm looking forward to hearing more stories as we continue to celebrate the upcoming 10th year anniversary of that Stanley Cup win. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of Get Me the Brandy. Dan, great to catch up with you. Enjoy the sunshine. Hopefully no more rain. Enjoy the palm trees and enjoy being in your home state of California. We'll see you when you get back.
I will enjoy it.